We don't play the social game. We are social. Power 98.5.
Can you hear it? Welcome, everyone.
Yes, we have another exciting and special guest here on the Terrible Reception radio show.
Yes, we do. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hey, y'all.
Got your camera right there.
Oh, hey, camera. Hey, I'm B-Hawk Snipes. Get your life. I'm from the Bronx, New York. My pronouns are they, them. And
do you ever do this?
I do that a lot. I put up the Bronx signal a lot.
Awesome.
It's crazy. It's a mess. But I gotta represent. I gotta represent for my people because we got J-Lo, we got Cardi, we got Terror Squad. Who else?
Dragon from the Bronx, right?
Who?
Dragon from the Rough Riders.
Oh.
Yeah. Terror Squad.
We don't know
everybody
her.
Under the
I'm joking. But they come find me. But a little bit about myself. I'm an entertainer. I'm a style icon. I am
a dope spirit.
Online boutique owner. What else do I do? I do a little dibbling and dabbling in so many different things. And I'm like, drained.
Acting,
modeling.
Yes.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. A little bit of writing now. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What type?
I'm working on a couple of scripts. Doing a little bit of producing. So there's a lot of great things coming up, but I can't say too much.
Can only imagine.
Okay, so that bag hits. Where my bag at?
We were just talking about before we actually went live. We were talking about kind of like terminology like get your coin, and now like since it's 2020, coins amount to like $20 bills. When we need to get our bag.
Where is your bag? Yeah. What is in your bag?
Right. We were trying to figure out like where did the terminology come from. And like we were, both sides were lost. Like we're like,
oh my god.
What's your favorite one? You called it queer terminology, right?
The queer phrases and terminology.
Like, what's your favorite one?
Because a lot of things that a lot of people say now have come from the queer community, especially the Black queer community.
We actually had a question like that where we're like, where does it actually derive from? Because we see like everybody going, yes, bitch, and like. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you can give us like a little, maybe.
Well, my favorite is get your life. I say that a lot because it's true. Like, I want people to like go and get your life, like get your ass up and do what you need to do and get your life because you only got one life to live. So live it up. But yeah, it's so many. I mean, it can honestly come from someone's like, cis straight grandmother, like whites, probably European, probably somewhere in Paris. She's like, like something really bougie, like, get your coins, love, or something like that. And then we'll take it and spin it and be like, yeah, get your coins, bitch. Yes, work, fuck it up. And then next thing you know, it's like J-Lo says it or Cardi says it, and then it just blows up and it catches on to so many other people. So it's a blessing and it's also a curse.
I was gonna say it's like who really gets like, the acknowledgement for like the core of it. I guess like the person who creates it, it's like the art world. Like there's always that person that doesn't get the acknowledgement for starting the whole trend. And then,
it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We'll never know.
We will never know.
We'll never know.
I always sit there and think about stuff like that. Like, the chicken or the egg. It would be like, okay, there wouldn't be a chicken without an egg, but there wouldn't be an egg without a chicken.
So it's like we all work. I think, things are being said, and then certain people just elevate it and make it more than what it is. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So I think that's how most things like that do happen in the ballroom voguing scene community, and then it kind of just expands to everyone else after that. So
funny enough, I had met Hawk. Let's get to the basis of how our relationship started and how it's like evolved. I met Hawk during Fashion Week around, where was it, 30 3rd Street, around that area. Like it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the new, when they were starting to do like more of the newer locations.
Yeah, the newer locations. And Hawk was going to attend one of the fashion designer shows, and I was outside as a photographer, and that's basically how it all started. And then we decided to shoot later on in Jersey, Patterson. I remember we had our first shoot, and Hawk was just this aesthetic phenomenal being that just posed and
so many words.
Yeah, like it was just amazing. Like I felt
into the room.
I felt for the first time like I was actually working with somebody that I felt like was at that model standard, that I actually could like get something out that was portfolio worthy, you know. And I mentioned, you know, how we met to Jay and everything else, and we've seen how you've grown in your own lane of modeling, how you you know, ended up on Pose FX on TV. Just incredible goals you've accomplished for yourself, and that's why we're having you today. Because one, it's to I guess celebrate the accomplishments you made, and same here, where we're all elevating in our lives. And then also to get a better understanding, really bringing our worlds together, of where everybody feels like, I guess there's this disconnect between the LGBTQ community and the straight community, and like things that you're probably personally going through, things that we're going through. We want to just like, you know, clear up the blurred lines. We want to find more insight. And I feel like that's the beauty of our relationship, where I know, like, you know, we have such a comfortable dialogue every time we link. And Jay was very, very excited to have you as a guest. And really,
I was excited, Jay.
When
y'all both hit me up, I was like, "Oh, this is serious!" Like, they're on it.
Yeah,
they're on it.
I was like, "I'll hit." Rich told me that he was like, "Oh, just hit him up." But when I read the text, I thought he meant for me to hit you up. So I had texted you on Instagram, and then he was like, "Fuck, I already hit him up." I was like, "Fuck it." He'll see the passion that we're both hitting you up just so we can have you on the show or whatever. So
no, it was. I was like, okay, this is intense. I was like, let me get ready. It was a whole process, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be here. We're gonna learn a lot.
Yeah,
and you're gonna work on these pronouns.
I was just about to do that because I noticed I said something earlier and I was like, oh shit, hold on. I wanted to start off with that actually. So
it's a lot.
Let's start off with that.
It's a lot of work. So my pronouns are they, them, and sometimes she, her. I'm getting into it. For a long time, for about 29 years, my pronouns were he, him. So this is something very new to me, and it's very new to a lot of people in my life. So people who are usually gender nonconforming or non-binary, that is my gender, non-binary, femme. I had that in there. Their pronouns are usually they, them. Usually, not all the time, but usually. And that means when you don't necessarily fall under the binary of male or female, you can identify as both, or you can identify as neither. Hence the word non-binary or gender non-conforming.
Right.
So yeah.
Quick question. Now, is this based off of energy, appearance, mixture of both? And I also had a second question to go along with it, where I know even like, you know how like, say like a white person, when we're talking about, I would say like, you know how like it'd be, oh, they're like that, they like that. Like, do you feel like one, because the pronoun from a grammatical standpoint, in a sense, doesn't particularly make sense? And I'm just saying that I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I just want to see from your perspective that if you use they, usually it means two people, and I understand why.
Right.
they became the terminology. I'm not playing stupid.
Right.
But at the same time, when we're trying to push for the agenda where literally our brothers, sisters, and everything in between from the LGBTQ community, when we're trying to be family at the end of the day, I feel, separates them. The word itself separates them on an outside source. So like if you're saying a bunch of white people talking about a bunch of black people, it'd be like, they're like that, all that. So sometimes I feel like if we see it in both contexts, sometimes that's a negative context. So I want the 2-part question. Is it energy and appearance? Is it a mixture both of who chooses, what pronoun?
Right.
And also, how do you feel about it from my point of view, perspective of that question?
I think if you do it on a one-to-one bit, like if you look at people as individuals first, then it will work better that way versus like, because it's not about visual aesthetic. Like that's not it at all. A lot of people think non-binary and gender non-conforming people are all androgynous as fuck. No, they all don't look like me. So get that out of your mind. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people think that, especially a lot when going to like modeling and casting calls. They're like, "Oh, do you know any like androgynous, non-binary people?" I'm like, "I do, but I just want you to know that not all non-binary people are androgynous. Some people fall more on a more masculine look. Some people fall under a more feminine look. When it comes to using the word they, them, it is now changed in the dictionary, the Webster dictionary. So now it could mean one individual person with two energies or identifying as two sexes or genders at least.
See, that's dope. I want to have known.
So it was just added. My photo was actually used for that promotion.
Shut up.
On Twitter. I was like, oh, okay.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was me. It was Webster. It was me and a friend of mine who uses they, them, their pronouns. So that's
Zay.
So that's
Really?
the future. I wasn't
Wow.
ready for that. That was
Wait, so you literally like have like the official Webster official stamp
Yeah.
of a wow.
So they, them.
So they, them, their. So that is, and that falls under also the pronoun spectrum of gender nonconforming and non-binary.
So is they, them, their with a Z in the beginning.
Right. So it's
That sounds so much cooler.
Yeah,
we were talking about this the other day.
Their, but it's also a tongue twister sometimes when you're trying to like describe someone and like a sense like, oh, they like, or they're going over there.
Right.
They're going over there. You know what I'm saying? So it gets a little
They.
crazy sometimes.
Okay.
How do you feel about it coming from, again, like from a non-grammat, like I guess when you think about the English language?
You can't think about it.
Okay.
Because a lot of the English, we know where the English came from, like the English dictionary. It came from mostly like white cis European men.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You know,
Now I know when you say cis, again,
Cisgender,
I know what
sorry.
I know what you're talking about. I personally know what you're talking about. For anybody that's watching and trying to elevate their knowledge, you know, because they're gonna be thinking, oh, cis,
right?
You think of white
Cis,
women.
no. Well, cis spelled CEIS, aka cisgendered, which means you fall into the binary of male or female. So that is cisgendered. Yes.
I always understood that as just males. I didn't understand that was also for females too.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we sometimes I call them like my cis sisters or something like that because
Gotcha.
you know they're females that were born according to doctors females.
So don't touch it.
The mic.
So just to piggyback off of that, when you mentioned you just recently made this decision to go by
Yeah.
they, them, their,
There.
right?
Yeah.
Was it like a feeling? Like when did you start, or when did you make that decision? Like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Because I wanted to jump onto that topic of Dwayne Wade, which you know was going on with Dwayne Wade
Right.
and his now she identifies
Daughter.
as a daughter, right? Like what do you think about? Well, tell me about you personally, and then what do you think about that topic in particular?
So for me, I was going back and forth a lot of it because I was hearing different types of language and vocabulary used within the queer community. I felt like that LGBTQ plus was expanding, and I was hearing this term non-binary and gender non-conforming, which I've never heard before until recently. And I was like, what is this about? So, Google Schmoogle. Google Schmoogle, honey. Use it. That's what it's there for.
If Google is Google they?
It could be.
Right?
I mean, you can identify as they, them as well. You don't have to be queer to identify and use they, them pronouns. I've actually met someone who is cisgendered female and she uses they, them pronouns.
Because literally growing up, and I think this is just how my mind works, because like some people have synesthesia where like if you hear sounds, you think of colors, right? And then also growing up, and I mentioned this to you, I think before, where like I see certain numbers and literally they were just male or female.
Yeah.
But now it's funny enough that we're having this conversation. It's like some did have a non-binary feel, but I wouldn't even have known of that.
You didn't know the vocabulary, you didn't know the terminology
for
it.
Is like the 8 to me at first was female because it's curvy, but it's strong, it's bold. But at the same time, it could be male as well. And like if you turn on this side, it's infinite. And I feel like
I never heard anyone give numbers and genders a thing.
But I had to be honest. Like I was thinking about it. No, from like literally an artistic standpoint. Like I felt like everything had an energy like that. So like it's funny that like 1 to me would have been, 1 is almost non-binary because it's also like it's so effeminate, but it's also strong and masculine at the same time. 2 to me has always been feminine. 3 is masculine. Like I can like literally tell you boom, boom, boom. Because that's literally how I felt. But
that's crazy. Because 3 is my favorite number, and I'm a little bit of both, I guess, but I'm definitely more on the feminine spectrum. But what was I saying? Oh yes, to answer back on your they them question, I started to, once I found out the terminology and other people that were using that pronoun as well. I started to see myself on Pose as a more feminine form. So it was kind of like, X-Men, like Jean Grey and then Phoenix. Yes. So that's like me. So B-Hawk is Jean Grey, and then my feminine form is kind of like the Phoenix. So it was just like powerful feminine energy coming out of nowhere that I've never seen, especially on TV before like that. So I was like, oh, okay. And then Sir Knight, shout out to Sir Knight, he was like, I feel like I want to call you she, her all the time. And I'm just like, no, I'm not she, her. I am he, him. Leave me alone. We're not going to talk about it anymore.
Gotcha.
And I was like holding that side of me in for so long because growing up, I was just like, no, I'm already gay enough. I don't have the time to be called she, her. On top of that. So
do you think it's the fluctuation of the times too, where it's like, Jay and I had this conversation sometimes. It's like, I think we're more happy with who we've become in our 30s and more comfortable with who we are, and just like, again, there's a freer expression. There is terminology now to explain your feelings, and I think that's what's the beauty about our generation. Absolutely. We created that,
especially in Black and brown communities. I feel like people are opening up more. I feel like the new generation, a lot of the millennials, were breaking down that stigma of you can't talk about how you feel and things of that nature. So it's super, super duper important to do that and break that cycle. Like I didn't grow up talking about my feelings or my emotions. Don't remember when last time I told my mother I loved her. I don't remember my mother ever telling me she loved me. Maybe when I was younger, but I think, my mother's very corporate world and she's very like, did you do your homework? Did you save your money? Like she's that lady. So now that I'm, growing into myself, I'm like, I love you. I say it to like, as soon as if I feel a great energy from you, I'm definitely gonna, show that love back.
Right.
So I'm definitely more open and honest about communicating my feelings and more emotions more.
Yeah.
Then it was the Zaya. Is that her name? Zaya?
Yeah, I think it's Zaya Wade.
Zaya Wade.
Wade,
okay.
Yeah.
Shout outs to her. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's beautiful for Black and brown communities to hear that from a father figure like Dwayne, who's plays basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like that's huge at this moment. It's for him to be so supportive of his child. I think sometimes as a child, like just take out the gender roles. Like that is a child at the end of the day. confidently figuring out who they are. And then, you know, looking on social media and seeing how so many people, so many ignorant people talking about like her body. And I'm like, this is a child that has more brain power than most adults. Like, respect the girl and her process. Let her just be free and amazing and figure things out.
Right.
Things might change in the future, but at this moment, this is where she is, and they need to respect that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was too, because you see a lot of criticism on both sides, and it's just like, yeah, she's young, but she's still trying to figure things out, right? Yeah. So it's like, it's good to hear that part where you're like, maybe she'll change her mind in the future, you know? Because there's so many people that are jumping down his throat and her throat, like, she's only 12, how could she make the decision, yada yada. And I'm like, come on.
But that's who she sees in the mirror, you know what I'm saying? Because I mean, I look at adults, I'm like, you don't even know who you are, and you're like 50, 60.
Yeah.
So figure that out, sis.
Before you judge somebody else.
Before you judge, and you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a huge thing. Like, I wish I knew the terminology and who I, when I looked in the mirror, I wish I knew who I was. You know what I'm saying? Especially at that age, that's amazing to be like, oh no, this is how I feel and this is how I want to represent myself at this time in my life. So that's beautiful. I mean, I hit 30 and I was like, oh, I'm non-binary.
And I think that's the beauty of like whatever bridge that anybody has built, you know, for the past, for people that can be expressive and choose what they want. I think as much as there's still a fight, and maybe you'll probably agree that there has to be had for, I would say equity, less than equality, because, you know, everybody has a different energy. And that's what I think brings the beauty in this world. Whether you're black, white, like there's certain attributes white people have that black people don't have, and black people have that white people don't have, and, you know, Latinos and all this, that we find that so like, oh my God, that's beautiful. And like, if we were all equal, it's like you'd eat mangoes every day and slowly get tired of that. So I think like
it'll be boring as fuck.
Yeah. So like, my question, I had a couple of questions, and I was said, is there any like narratives within the LGBTQ community to be wary of straight people, the way that straight people almost put that energy out to be like, oh, be careful of gay people or this or that? Like, do you have that with, you know, within your community of like, beware of straight people, how they could be treated, like how they could treat us or anything like that? I always feel like there's that atmosphere. Like, even like we went out today. Yeah. I love that, like our relationship. And I find it like so sacred in a sense that like, I don't feel like everybody comes together like that. And like, I'm comfortable to be with you, but I feel like the outside world judges it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they're looking at me like, they're like, oh,
why are you with them?
Yeah, exactly.
And some people are looking at me like, why are you with Jay?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, because
you know
he's dope.
Yeah. Like, I feel like they make more of it than it is, rather like,
instead of embracing it and celebrating it. And I think that's why I'm so happy that we do have the friendships that we have, because we're breaking down those norms for the next generation. I feel like the older generation is probably set in their ways, and they're just like, it is what it is. Some people are changing. Some older people are changing over the age of 40 or 50, because they've lived and they've seen so many different things, and they've seen how the world has changed and evolved, and they're like, okay, I feel like, you know, the times are going back into the 70s, and you know, where people were just free and just living their life, and there were no titles and labels. And some people are like, no, I like it the way it is, when it was the 50s and the 60s. And I'm just like, okay.
But stuck in their ways. Basically.
Right, but they're very stuck in their ways. And you can only do so much. Like, I'm not here to change everyone's mind. I'm here to live my life and get my life. And that's it. Like, and inspire others to do the same. I think that's the gift that I have. And if that's what that is when walking into a bar with y'all, there's I'm pretty sure someone's like, you know, wow, like that's an interesting group of people to be hanging out with each other. And it might inspire them to do the same. Like, oh, maybe I should switch in my friend group. Right. Instead of hanging out with the same looking people. Like, that's whack.
Yeah.
That's why I say when there is pineapples, mangoes, guavas, like, you want your palate to experience it. Come on, guava. Team guava. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, so But again, I really want your insight on that. Like, is there a fear within the community of like straight people? Is there still like as much as like straight community can have ignorance towards, you know, LGBTQ, is there that within the community of the straight people?
I feel like at times, yes. I feel like at times, because I feel like as queer people, it's hard to speak for everybody, but I feel like for most of us, right? For most of us, from the stories I've been listening to, it's just tough for us to just live our lives freely. So we're constantly overthinking things instead of just living in the moment. Like we were talking about earlier, like with the bathroom issues and things of that nature, we're always trying to figure out, because we live in a very binary world, mostly. So to step into those spaces, it can be very uncomfortable. And I feel like sometimes as queer people, we do judge our, you know, cisgendered brothers and sisters without even getting to know them, because we've been hurt and marginalized for so long. So it can be tough. Because I know for me, because I've been hurt more by my own Black people than white people or Latinos, which is pretty sad, but it's the truth. And so I do feel uncomfortable in certain Black spaces at times. And I have this conversation all the time with Sir, because he can go into a space and no one will pay him any mind. Like they're like, oh, that's just some, you know, Black dude, you know, just chilling. But when I walk into a room, it's like RuPaul's Drag Race. And everyone is just like in my face, trying to figure out what's going on, or why are they even hanging out together, not knowing that, you know, we're of the same experience. Right. We're just on two different, you know, platforms and stages.
Different like spectrums. Cause like my father actually, you know, I remember this as a kid. He had a photography shoot that he had to do, and the gay parade was happening at the time. And it wasn't my father that ever made me feel different or weary about the gay community. It was always like outside sources. It might have been like, you know, somebody, a grandma or this or that saying something weird about it, and it made you almost like fearful. And I remember that experience as a child. It took me a while to be who I am, knowing that I love these people for who they are. And like, I remember like my dad was taking us by hand through the gay parade, and not that anything was threatening, because it was all about love. Maybe it was like, for my age, it was heavy on the sex part. Like I remember stickers saying "got sex," like "got milk" from back in the day. And like, I don't know, like, everybody was dressed in like fishnets, and like it was very sexual driven. But that day kind of opened my mind, because it was how my dad approached it. And my dad, or whoever is raising you at the time, your mother or father, they're the ones you look up to. So my dad didn't have a fear. He didn't make us feel weird about it. He was like almost embracing it as we were going through, and just saying like, oh, this is happening today, they're celebrating. I have to get to my job. Where other people make you like, it depends on who's giving you that, you know, that insight of what they think they know. And it can change your whole perspective. Because
a lot of that starts at home. A lot of ignorant training and state of mind start at home. And, you know, kids pick up a lot of things, of course, on the streets, but it mostly starts at home. And my mother has always been pretty accepting of all different types of people. So, I mean, we didn't grow up in the most like loving home and hippie home, but you know, she's been like, you know, I never actually came out to her in any sort of way. She always just knew something was up. Even like as a child, like I look back at like baby photos of me with like barrettes and dresses on. And I'm just like, really?
Why do I feel we have the same like photos?
I'm like, what is going on? Because my mother wanted 3 girls. Her first one had passed at 8 months of sickle cell. And then I came about maybe 2 years later, and she was like, I know it's going to be a girl. I know it's going to be a girl. And it was me. With a penis.
I was gonna say eventually she was right. No,
but she was like, I don't know if I never asked her. I don't know if she felt that feminine energy coming through, but she was just like, I'm just gonna dress you up and we're gonna play this game and it's gonna be cute. And then history played out itself.
Do you feel like she was bouncing off of your energy?
I think so. I think parents just know. I feel like parents, if you really take the time to get to know your child and have that connection with your child, you kind of just know that something's a little off cue of the binary in a way.
Now I'm gonna put you in check. Don't say off.
Oh, well, not off.
Don't say off.
Just
something special.
Special. Because I have to stop saying weird. I say weird a lot. My mother says weird a lot, so I have to stop. But thank you for putting me in chat. But yeah, it was interesting. It was a very interesting evolution that we went through. So my mother, I think she's more so protective now because I think she does see a lot of Black trans people being murdered. Even with Pose being out, I feel like sometimes we're even more of a target now. A lot of like trans and femme presenting people. So she's way more protective. She's like, "Are you really gonna wear that gown outside today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's cute though." And I have it on with combat boots, so just in case I gotta get rough and drop kick somebody in the neck or whatever, I'm good, So she's like, "Okay," but yeah, it's all about communication and how you kind of raise your kids.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned something earlier about how you grew up in a not so loving household, right? I felt that on a whole different level because my household was the same way. And, for those that don't know, I work with kids that, have behavioral issues. And a lot of them come from homes that are just like that. And somebody once told me, I forget where I heard this, but a person turns out the way they are depending on how much love or lack of love they receive. But then what I like preaching to my kids is that you can be that cycle breaker.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's interesting that you had mentioned that because now you're the one that's like showing love to your mom. And I bet you she reciprocates now. I bet you at first she was like super uncomfortable, right?
She's still uncomfortable. No shade. Yeah. She's still like, all right, why are you touching me? I mean, my mother's from Harlem. She's the Black girl from Harlem. She's like, and her mother didn't give her that affection either. So this is years and years and years and of the same cycle. So for me to now have to break that and get her more comfortable with showing emotion and talking and communicating, like. Every once in a while I like to sit at the table with my mother and like, let's have a chit chat.
Yeah.
Because we don't talk about as many things. And now I'm getting older now, so I'm starting to understand a little bit her point of view and become a little bit more patient. But she getting there, but yeah.
Still mom from Harlem.
Yeah, she's still a Black mother from Harlem. She's like, listen, it is what it is, what you want me to do. And I'm like, okay,
mom.
It's hard. It's so tough. Like a lot of my friends, they came from a little bit more like vocally loving homes where they were told I love yous and they gave hugs and all that stuff. And they're like, B, I don't get it. Like, I'm like, when my mother is 60, she just turned 60, and she's like, that's all I know.
Yeah.
That's all I know is get your work done, go to school, and, save your money and all the other stuff. Yeah. So I think now that, we're all breaking that cycle, especially for you, for teaching kids like that, like that's super duper important. Like you do have the power to break that cycle.
And it takes time too, because I noticed with my own mom, like we never said I loved you, I love you. We never gave hugs, and now to the point where it's like we give each other like awkward hugs, and she's just like,
right,
she doesn't even know how to receive it.
Crazy? It's like, damn, like you went this whole life without like a proper hug, and I love you. Like I love hugging my.
So I feel yeah, that's what I was about to say. I feel like you have a very loving spirit. So sometimes, like even if you don't receive that, like maybe sometimes it's intuitive, it's instinctive, and I feel like maybe you learn that along the way for yourself or anybody else that you do have to love along the way.
But I wasn't always like that though. Like this is like a recent thing. Like I used to be like, don't touch me.
But it's a growth.
Yeah, it's a growth thing, and it's also a New Yorker thing. Like
we're from the Hard Knocks,
right?
Even Jersey.
I don't trust you. Don't touch me. Thanks.
I was gonna say another question. I don't know if I'm asking this rhetorically, but what are the prejudices you face within your own circles and community?
Well, as a person of color, I do tend to get a lot of shade or mistreated from my white queer or gay counterparts.
That's so crazy.
Can you emphasize on the two again? We trying to expand the knowledge.
Okay. So then you have so gay. Everyone know, well, most people know what gay means. So gay means that you date the same gender for the most part. Okay. So queer is more of an umbrella term. Mm-hmm. We're now taking that word back. It was a word that was used to marginalize us and discriminate us and make us feel less than back in the day. In the 19th century.
It's funny you say that because that was actually one of my questions
to
explain the word queer.
Oh, yeah. So queer is now an umbrella term.
Who's an example of somebody, whether I feel like every time I come over, I'm like, gonna kiss you. I feel like, again, like who would be an example of queer, whether like entertainment wise or somebody that somebody else might know of?
I would say Janelle Monáe.
Okay.
She is, or they. I'm going to say they just to be safe. That's another thing. If you don't know someone's pronouns, when in doubt, say they, them, honestly. Because that way, everyone's born with male, masc, and femme energies. Mm-hmm. It's just up to the individual to kind of embrace certain ones more than the other.
That's why, like, honestly, like, anybody that I can talk to about, like, cooking, decoration, artsy stuff, I could never do that really amongst my straight friends. It'll be like, oh, he's European. Right. So would you consider that queer energy?
That can be seen. Yeah, that can be seen as queer energy. I mean, because you're breaking down those binary constructs. You know what I'm saying? And now going into something more fluid.
Yeah, because everybody's always saying, oh, he's French. And it's just something that I truly appreciate, whether I'm cooking, and I guess maybe that from a 50s standpoint, it's like the men were always doing this, but like there's things that we, I enjoy doing. And
well, that's a very interesting topic because that kind of made my brain go and lose it a little bit, because BET just recently came out with the Queer as Fuck list that I was a part of. Thank you, BET. Yay. Finger snaps. Okay. Okay. Growth, honey. Growth. Right. My goodness. So you have recently Black Trans TV, Sir Knight and Love More. They date women, but a lot of people saw their photo and automatically thought gay, meaning they probably date each other or whatever the case may be. So there was a lot of backlash with that, which I thought was a great picture. And I thought it was beautiful to see two Black men showing nothing but joy and love to each other. But, people are ignorant as shit.
So ignorant.
But they automatically thought gay, which is not really it. But
they wouldn't be queer, right?
Right. So, I mean, for them, you can date women and be seen as, I guess, heterosexual, or be in a heterosexual relationship and still fall under the queer umbrella.
Figured it out.
All right. Okay, so I've had gay friends where they feel they can quote unquote turn out Jay or me. Okay. And maybe it's because, again, like I just said, like there might be what, again, in the context is, again, not putting a stamp to anything, but if Jay has more of a sensitive side, more sensitive than usual that you would find in a straight male, they're saying that everybody is queer by default and that love is love, but people aren't comfortable with taking it to the sexual aspect of it. So that's why I feel like there's always been that, I'm gonna turn Jay out, I'm gonna turn Rich out, I've turned out, and it's one of those things, if they're attracted to you, they're attracted to you. Right. So it's funny that it's almost an epiphany for me, and maybe even you, where it's like, okay, now I understand why they feel that there's always that opening.
Yeah. If we go back to the beginning, the beginning of time. Okay.
When dinosaurs were around, or too far back?
Right. Which came first? Jesus or the dinosaurs? We will never know. Because that's another conversation. But I'm going back to Native American times. Okay. So before Christopher Columbus did his massacre and fucked up the whole shit. So Native Americans believed in two-spirited individuals, and they praised them. So, and a lot of Africans did as well, which a lot of people don't know. They didn't call them non-binary. I think they were mostly two-spirited, and they had other terminology and vocabulary used for it. So I always find that to be very interesting because I just feel like before the settlers came over and took over and kind of created these binary boxes of male and female religion and the colonizers. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, geez, Louise. Before they came over, things were just lit. Like if you had a connection with someone, you did it, and that was that. There was no labels. There was no nothing equivalated to that person. It was just like, this is who I like, and that's it. But now things have become so much more complex. But I feel like, we're trying to learn from our ancestors and the Native Americans who kind of set that tone for America in the beginning before shit got fucked up. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Now, to clarify, if you bump into somebody and they were like, okay, what does queer mean? How would you lay it out for them? The simplest way possible.
Simplest way. Okay.
If there's any simple way of saying it, because it probably isn't now that I'm thinking about it.
I mean, I just feel like it's a, because I looked on Google. Actually, let me read what Google said. Here's my phone. Jesus. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'm gonna let you know what Google said.
Well, now that you mentioned Sir Knight the other day, right?
Yes.
Well, earlier, the other day I was on his page and he posted something on his story that said queer does not mean gay.
Right.
So once you said that part, it was like, because I always, like Rich said earlier, he was saying that a lot of our gay friends would mention to him like that I give off like gay energy, I guess because I'm more sensitive, I'm more of the reserved type. I don't know what it means, but I guess I would fall under the queer umbrella now. I
mean, but see, you define you know what I'm saying? Like no one else can define you except you.
Can I get a finger snap?
Okay, can I get a fam? So only you can define you, so it doesn't really matter what they say or think.
They just try and get it.
Right, period. And that's that on that. Because I've played that trick as well. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Okay, I found the definition. So I had posted, because I think a lot of people have reposted, I think Sarah reposted mine. It said, queer does not mean gay. Queer is an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are not heterosexual or who are not cisgender. Okay. Originally meaning strange or peculiar, queer came to be used against those with same-sex desires or relationships in the late 19th century. But I think now, because queer is such a fluid word, I think you can be heterosexual and have queer tendencies or queer energy. So I'm all about energy. So I feel like queer is more of an energy than an identity, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, you weird as hell," and I'm like, "I guess so. Yeah, I'll embrace that shit."
I mean, who isn't a little off?
Right.
Wait, is that the word I wasn't supposed to use? Off?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I would say special. Yeah.
Special.
But even that word sometimes.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot, but I think I love using the word the letter I, which means individual. This is who I am. This is how
one
I
eye
identify.
Photography.
Okay.
And it has a double meaning. Did I ever tell you why I called it one eye photography?
Plug. Huh?
Did I ever tell you why?
Right.
Yeah, shameless plug. Did I ever tell you why I named it one eye photography?
I don't think so.
One is off of that basis for sure, because I was like, okay, it's a play on words. But my father, when he was a really bad kid growing up in France, and he used to play with slingshots with his friends. And unfortunately, the other kid was he said a half a mile away, and he got hit in the eye with the slingshot where actually his eye fell out in the woods. Wow. And he lost his eye, and on top of it, all the kids ran. So he's disoriented in the woods, and literally a policeman found it on the side of the road, kind of out of it. And then my dad had this whole journey from there where, again, to make a long story short, one, he ended up using his weakness of having one eye as a strength, because his dad wanted to give him his eye. I felt like it was one of those things where the nerve endings or his eye was too large for my dad's skull at the time. They could have maybe reattached it. Jesus. Even back then, you know, you lose the perception of the third dimension. So everything ends up like a photo, like 2D. So he had a really good eye for photography. And that's why I called it one eye photography, based off of my father's experience in life. And also, there's only one you, like your fingerprint.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one eye and the strongest power. So that's what it stands for.
That was deep.
Yeah.
That was deep, Rich.
Thank you.
That was deep.
I just wanted you to know, you know.
Finger snaps for that. Because I had no idea. I'm thinking like, okay, one eye through the lens.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that too. Yes. You always use one eye to take a photo, you know?
Right. So you can play. I like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's empowerment.
The more you know.
The more you know. And that rainbow. So, you know. What I was gonna ask, as well, like I know from experiences of being around other people that are cis or straight. Always when it comes to gay or, you know, the LGBTQ community, they're always thinking about the sexual thing. That's like the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. Maybe
you want to give a little bit of clarity on, from what I know because of our conversations, my knowledge is that it's a free flowing, like nobody really takes roles because it is non-binary. So when people are like, oh, are you a bottom? Are you a top? Or this or that? Like maybe you want to give a little bit more insight to the sexual experience. Like I want to bring the levels of maybe what people are uncomfortable by, that little bit of discomfort where it's like, we all know love is love, right? Sometimes even probably, you know, in the trans community, like they don't want to have sex all the time. Sometimes you want to just lay in bed type of vibe. And I'm feeling everybody goes to that direction.
Yeah.
And it's like, imagine like you bring up a straight person, oh, you want to think about them having sex each time. It's like, that's not how it should be going, correct?
Right. It's a mess. Honestly, it's one of those things like, mind your damn business. Like, if we're not fucking, then you don't need to know shit. Absolutely not. And a lot of people, I think people are just they're obsessed and secretly obsessed. A lot of people, and it's a taboo, and it's like, oh my god, what's behind door number one? It's like, no, it's not for you to find out unless we fucking or you pay me, and that's that on that. You know what I'm saying? Right? Okay, like cut it out. Like, hello,
insiders.
It's crazy how people will literally go up to someone ignorantly and be like, oh, so how do you use the bathroom, or do you have a dick? Or have you gotten surgery yet? What?
You wouldn't ask that to anybody, and you just
are you
like...
fucking crazy? Like, if you go up to the wrong person, you will get knocked the fuck out. Like, no shade. Like, you will really get knocked out. Like,
I'd be like, Jay, does your anus look like an octopus mouth? Like, what the fuck?
It's like, people are legit.
I mean, that's what
crazy.
anuses look like.
that's what they look like. I would like to see it. I would like to see it, Jay.
Nobody wants to see that.
Right?
Trust
me.
like,
I can name a couple people that do.
Oh, okay. Go down the list. But no, people are really obsessed with things like that. And I find that so crazy because people have to understand that your genitalia does not... it does not equivalate to your sexuality. You know what I'm saying? Like, and on your gender, or whatever the case may be, like it's not quite the same thing all the time. And that's just what it is. Like, I mean, if you would like to know more and you want to actually get to know someone or on a personal level, then maybe they might feel comfortable with answering those questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like everybody, you know, is there any way to say, like, for the whole community, is there a way to say, like, I don't want to put everybody in an umbrella, but like when you say straight, you get the idea. It's like, okay, that's that community. Right. I know. Do you always have to say LGBTQ?
I am trying my best not to.
Gotcha.
I think what we're moving more towards at the moment is using the word queer because it's such an umbrella term for the entire community.
So for the queer community, right? Like, I feel like just as human beings, I feel like we have, because that's what it is. It's the human race. First of all, we all have these labels, black, white. There is different colors, but it's like saying cats.
Yeah.
All right. There's so many different types of cats, but at the end of the day, we're cats.
Right.
We're humans. Right.
Exactly.
So that, and I feel like humans have fetishes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So even from like, a straight male, or maybe I have queer energy now. So it's like, so it's one of those things. We all have fetishes. It's like, you're always like, oh, I want a big ass, big tits. Like, even when you watch porn, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to go with the guy that has the little dick fucking somebody. You want the guy with the big dick. It's like, it's just imprinted in our brains that sometimes bigger is better and this or that. But at the end of the day, when you do enter your relationships in this life, your love, like, none of those things fucking matter.
It's all about what makes you happy.
Exactly.
Like, I can go to a porn, right? Like, there's no non-binary porn out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this queer porn, there's straight porn, and then and then there might be some other things in between. I have no idea what's going on.
Right.
It gets
crazy.
Right, it gets a little crazy. But people just like what they like. You know what I'm saying? I know straight identifying people that watch queer porn. I know them personally,
but they're really queer.
But they don't identify as such. So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, okay, you enjoy it, get your life. It makes you excited. Great.
Get your life.
Right. It's like go, but you know what I mean? And they're married to each other, like heterosexual couples that are like into watching like queer porn because it excites them. Like it's some I've heard some like heterosexual people like, you know, queer porn is just more exciting than straight porn and da-da-da-da. I'm like, well, okay. Get it. Get it. I mean...
what do you think is the people's fear about gender-neutral bathrooms? I never understood that.
Because a lot of people who are mostly very religious, for the most part, and ignorant. Not saying all religious people are ignorant, but there's a lot of people that are. I went to Catholic school, I know.
So did I.
Okay, for 10 years. We probably knew the same people.
Probably.
Probably related, Jay. Oh my God.
Maybe.
We have a non-binary cousin.
What's your nationality?
I'm black. That's all I know.
I've asked you this question before, and
people
I was like,
have asked me,
black.
and I'm just black. Yeah. And Sir gets really upset when I say
Dominican?
just black. I feel like there's something else in my mixing pot, and a lot of black people are like, well, black is enough. I'm like, I know it is enough, but I know there's more. You know what I'm saying? And I think from my point of view, from my black experience, you know what I'm saying? I want to know like what else is out there, because I mean, I know like we came from a lineage of slavery, and I know there's some white blood somewhat up in there.
but there's more than that.
And there's more than that. There's
Before the
Native
slavery,
Americans,
the thing is, again, we all know to a certain extent black culture has been covered because it's one of the most prominent forces or first cultures that had so much so much one, family values, because we all know where it started.
Yeah,
I can get into my whole bag of why.
right
Because I was telling a lot of people, again, it's so hard to make a long story short with this, but
you can do that.
Okay, we all know the birth of the human race is like African based. You can ask Europeans or anything like that. Anybody that's really knows what they know, we know that, right? After that, it goes to Asia. You can see it in the facial features.
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing. The Native Americans. It's like the beauty about the Native Americans, from the hair to the texture of the hair to the bone structure.
Yeah.
They almost started, this is like in between seeing the black person evolve into what we know as the Caucasian.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it interesting to me, because it was colder climates. So even in the nose structure, I know from a scientific, or what has been said, is that people from Africa have broader noses because you also dealt with like deserts and stuff, and like it's just the way the skin, the melanin, the hair texture, it was conformed to the environment.
Right.
And a lot of family values come from black culture because it was so rich. You had everything you needed in Africa, from food to everything. So what was the focus? Family, right? And then you almost see it in present day of like what became the Caucasian man, or same thing. Black Hispanics have that very close bond, even the way everybody embraces each other, because the family values were the main focus. Now, when you come into the days of slavery, of what we know in America, like literally the blood that has been laid on the soil, it's a very different dialogue than somebody from Africa that literally stayed on the mainland. Because the part that destroys it and has become probably even part of your DNA,
right,
of the anxiety that the Black community deals with, is that the white man from the UK Northern is very survival standard. He couldn't focus on family anymore because the harsh conditions. He couldn't trust his brother anymore because you ended up in environments where if you didn't eat, you died.
Right.
So now we see this in a very societal structure where it's like, okay, I can see it's like when you shake a white guy's hand, it's like this. It's very like, distant.
Yeah.
And then when you see again with the Hispanic, Latino, Black community, even Asian culture, it's very more family oriented, very close. And when you take the head of the family, which is the male from, again, the slavery times, and you have the white male taking, whether it's cutting off his genitalia, same thing for the women, if you're killing the women in front, that depression starts becoming part of the DNA, because the woman can't look to the head of the household anymore. She has to take all the burden for the children on top of dealing with slavery, thinking about, I'm going to die every day.
Right.
So all these energies have been transferred, as we know, down the line to everybody. And it also impacts, again, from a human standpoint, anybody that has become non-binary or anything else like that. And now we just see it to this day on the American soil.
Yeah. It's pushing through.
It's pushing through. So again, with all that said, it's like you have to know your past. You have to understand where you came from and what you're actually meant to give back into your society. Because even like I'm saying, if you're coming from the Bronx or whatever like that, we know like there's a lot of people that like even from the Black community, like they want to believe that even their families, everybody came from royalty. Not everybody was royal, but everybody came from a very spiritual, from a very humbling, family-oriented culture. And that's been torn from you, if anything.
Right.
Not the riches and the jewels. That's what's been torn. And that's what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
Is that love.
Okay.
So what I'm saying from a scientific and a societal standpoint is why we have so much clash and why we don't have that support, because almost in a sense, the Black community has been left with the loneliness that the white community had to go through from a survival standpoint, if that makes sense.
You lost me 5 minutes ago.
Oh my God.
To be honest with you.
We was in a history class and you wasn't paying attention, Jay. The test is tomorrow and you're going to fail.
I'll fail.
Hello. But that was amazing. Like, I mean, these are all things that I honestly just started to read on. Because as I told you before, I wasn't always in tune with my Blackness, because it was always pushed down my throat that I couldn't be feminine, I couldn't be queer and Black. I couldn't be any of those things. I had to, and on top of that, I wasn't Black enough because of it. I didn't sound Black enough because of the way I spoke. I didn't look Black enough. And whatever Black is to a lot of Black people, which has honestly no common sense. And I will never understand it for a lot of people. But there are a lot of people who are very ignorant. A lot of people in my family were very ignorant. And so I had to do that research on my own. Of course, it wasn't taught in the schools. I would have to then take a separate Black literature class, and I was not trying to do that. So I had to learn a little bit later on in life, and I think, it sucks, but at least I know now, and you move forward and teach others. But I do need to look up my ancestry. I think it's very important to at least try to do it, just to kind of see like, where certain things come from, like the way, even like, diseases or other characteristics that come in line. You know what I'm saying? I think it's really, really important. So thanks to which, I'm going to try to get on that ASAP now. Because I am intrigued. I want to know what us is inside. Because I do look at photos of me sometimes, and I think one photographer took a photo of me, and I look like a Native American like chief or some sort of like queen or something. And I was just like, and I've gotten Ethiopian before, and I've gotten all these like.
Definitely see that too.
And I'm just like, hey, I'm like, I'm just from the Bronx. I don't know what's going on.
I'm just from the Bronx. I eat Wendy's all
Right.
the time.
I'm just in the Bronx. I don't know what's happening. And most of my family is actually, they're from South Carolina, and that's as far as I go back. And of course, like Africa. But that's all I know. So I'm excited to know more once I figure that out.
That's interesting. Let's talk more about your professional career. What do you think is your biggest accomplishment to date?
Pose, possibly.
Love the show.
Yeah, I would have to say Pose. I mean, that was the first time I really saw myself becoming someone that was transcending into a new form of themselves. And it was powerful, and I received so much love from that opportunity to be a featured actor for 2 seasons on a hit show. Was like a big thing, and I didn't really get into it until I got the love back and feedback from people who was like, oh my God, like I saw myself within you. And you know, I had no lines. I still don't have no lines. It's been 2 seasons. So hopefully
You just like
I
chill
get
in
a
the
few.
background.
You know what I'm saying?
It's all about energy, like you always say.
It's you know.
Can we finally give Hawk
Some
his
lines.
deserving lines? Because literally I was watching the show with my mom all the time, and I was like, Hawk's winning these these
runway battles.
these runway battles, and I'm like, that could be a character.
That could be a
What do we got to talk to tell them to give you the Get Your Life line?
Stephen Canals, Janet Mock, casting people.
Listen. Just give him that one line, and it'll blow up from there. I promise you.
Please, baby, please. But no, it was an amazing opportunity just to even be on for 2 seasons. Because for the second season, I wasn't really seeing much because they had passed through 5 years into the future, so they wanted to change up the ballroom a little bit and add new faces.
Okay.
But then Janet Mock one day, I didn't even know she knew my name. She was like, "We want B-Hawk up here." Like in the front. And I was like, oh, shit. Here we go. And then in the finale, I wasn't even supposed to walk that runway scene in season 2. They kind of just was like, the girl that they originally chose, she was really pretty. She was a little short. Standing next to the other girls. And he was like, we need someone else. We need another femme energy in the ballroom. And so they was like, B-Hawk. And mind you, I'm at crafting, eating, minding my business, and
Chicken sandwich.
eating something, some sort of. It was a turkey bacon sandwich, actually. I love turkey bacon.
I don't know why I automatically thought turkey sandwich.
I was like, I love turkey bacon.
Why do you have all these commonalities? Maybe you are Dominican.
I'm probably am. I got in Dominican growing up a lot though, and I used to be like, I don't know what Spanish.
You're like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. So probably definitely Pose. It definitely changed my life.
Do you have any celebrity figure relationship friendships that you value because of the show?
I wouldn't necessarily. I'm trying to think. You said celebrity, so I'm like, But I have some close acquaintances that I do see from time to time through that show. I mean, they're all beautiful people, and every time I see them, it's nothing but love and respect, which I always appreciate. Like Billy Porter will literally shout me out, like if he saw me in the
comment
street.
section.
Yeah,
One of your photos.
Isn't it crazy? When he followed me, I was like, oh shit. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, because most of the cast, they do follow me, and I'm just like, well, when Billy Porter did, I was like, okay.
This is official.
This is a thing now. This is pretty official because I think with him, he's just so amazing. He's been doing this for so long. And for him to get, to this platform to reach millions and millions of people and become kind of like a household name and just be his true self in his whatever form he may be in, because he's such a style chameleon. He comes from Broadway life, and it's just really great to kind of see that come into fruition for him. It's really beautiful. And, MJ Rodriguez is doing great things. India Moore is amazing. It's like they are so iconic and they're so powerful with their voice and their platform, and they don't put up to any bullshit. Dominique, who plays Elektra, she's stunning, and I've literally like stood in for her a couple of times on set because we're both like around the same height. And saying like a lot of the clothes that she didn't get to wear or they didn't want, they usually put on me. So that was always fun. Thanks. Fun fact. Blair Rain Pendavis got Electra's sloppy seconds, but you know, we glammed him up. We made it work. It was cute. I was happy about that.
I was gonna say, like, a lot of the characters are very endearing. You fall in love with them. Over time. Is anybody like very different from who they play? Like, are they really in that acting bag that you're like, oh, like, I wish you were? I mean, that's probably not a good question to ask. Like,
you trying to set me up?
No, I'm not trying to set
me up.
No, I'm just saying, like, is everybody like very pleasant offset as they are on set?
Absolutely. I mean, they're all like really, really. I think I get along with pretty much most of them. Everyone's pretty like, hi, B-Hawk, hey. Like, they'll stop what they're doing to just say hi. Like, especially MJ. MJ Rodriguez is the sweetest nugget in the world. Like humble. She's so chill. Like, she'll stop and just, she's probably the most opposite from her character, because she will literally, she's super goofy and playful and upbeat. Like, she'll stop and just do a dip in the middle of a scene, like when they yell cut. And I remember they were rushing her off to her trailer and we were in passing and I had waved to her. I was like, hey, MJ. And she literally stopped everyone in her team and was like, no, I have to go say hi to B-Hawk. And I looked at her, I was like, girl, what is wrong with you? Like, you better go to your trailer and get your life together. She was like, no, you said hi, I want to give you a hug. And I'm like,
that's dope.
Thanks, girl, for seeing me. It was crazy. And I think I just respected her so much for that moment, because they don't have to, once you get like principal roles on shows, you know, people start to feel it. And, you know, they become like really big shot. And I know it's a lot of stress and work that goes into it. So it's a lot of brain power. So you technically can't give all your energy all over to 200 extras and background people. But I feel like, you know, when they do have those moments with you, I feel like it makes the experience so much better. Like even with Dominique, like she's literally sat aside with me and told me like, you don't have to be SAG right away. Just take your time. The opportunity will come. Like, she sat down with me and she was like, you know, having these like really cool, intimate conversations. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these people in Pose were actually mothers in the ballroom scene. So they're very nurturing and very caring and very loving. And I think it's beautiful to kind of see that on camera and off camera and how it works. I think Dominique is probably definitely the most opposite of her character, Elektra. Elektra is definitely a bitch. And Dominique is just so sweet. You know, she's so kind. I mean, she has her moments. You know, she'll let that bitch out. But for literally 90% of the time, she's so sweet and so nice.
Okay. What did you learn from being on set? You mentioned the word nugget earlier. I know you're referring to somebody, but what was the golden nugget that you came out of?
The golden nugget
from
from
being on set.
I was just so inspired. I was inspired to see people like me on a set for once, because you do a lot of this background stuff and you're always the only black one. You're always the only queer one. Right. And sometimes you're definitely the only non-binary person. So for the first time, it felt good. It felt good to be represented in front of the camera and behind the camera. There was so much diversity everywhere, you know? So it was beautiful.
Are the balls as fun filming as they do come off on the show?
They can be, but we're filming 13, 14 hours a day. So
you have to get into
right.
character.
You gotta really I tell people like, you can't even throw shade to the background people on that set, because we make the balls. You know what I'm saying? Without background, the balls would be boring as fuck. It would just be Elektra and, you know, Angel walking up and down on the runway.
Are they doing a good representation of the balls from real life to on set?
I believe so. I have heard some criticism from people who had lived during the Paris is Burning decade or times.
Please check out that documentary.
Okay.
Oh, that's on my list, actually.
Paris is Burning. It will change your life. It's so beautiful, especially if you're a New Yorker or you grew up in the tri-state area in New Jersey. Like Paris is Burning is like you get to see New York in its rarest form, like especially coming from a different point of view.
It's raw.
It's very raw. You know, you get to see people, you know, dying of AIDS, you know, HIV, drugs, but you also it's uplifting at the same time because people are going into these ballrooms and they're uplifting each other with nothing but positive and love and giving each other awards and acknowledging each other. And I think that's the most beautiful point of these of shows like Pose. Like you get to see that, and Paris is Burning, of course. But it's I do wish Pose was a little bit more grittier when it came to the ballroom, because if you watch Paris is Burning, it was trashy. Like they were in basements. It was probably water coming from the ceiling. Like trash was all over the ground. I wish it was, but when you think about Pose, it's a Hollywood version of what that was. That was real life. This is Hollywood. So of course they're gonna glam it up and make it look like all cool and pristine. But a lot of people who came from that Paris is Burning era, they did have issues with the show because it wasn't really following that dialogue of the original. But you know, Pose is not Paris is Burning, and I think people have to just know that, like, they're just taking bits and pieces of that decade and just glamorizing it a little bit.
I have a two-piece question because it was a perfect transition, I feel.
Yes.
Two. One, about AIDS. Jay recently got into his conspiracy bag, and I love that. So I'm going to ask you a conspiracy question because it has to do with AIDS. Was it government created, do you think, to get rid of the queer community? Or do you feel that it actually came along some other way? And my two-piece is because you said Paris is Burning, New York. You're from New York, and you recently had a trip to Paris, so I want to know about your experience as well.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay, first question. Boom. I believe it was the government, because the government has been a whole setup for a very long time, like to kill out people, to marginalize people. You know, honestly, or it did come upon probably on its own, and I feel like maybe the government made it worse than what it was and kind of implanted it in certain places. Very similar to what they kind of did in like places like the Bronx. Like they put drugs, they planted that shit over there so they can die out, you know, all the, you know, black and brown people. I feel like the government is up to a lot of crazy things. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they implanted that somewhere and tried to kill people off. But I mean, it did its job, but unfortunately not enough, because we're still here today at this goddamn table. And then the second part question, Paris. Okay, so yes, I am a Bronx native. Born in Washington. Okay. Shout out to the Bronx. Lean back with it. I was actually born in Washington Heights. And okay.
What is going
In
on?
the Heights.
What is going on?
Can we go see In the Heights together when it comes out?
I've always wanted to.
Oh my God, we have to go see In the Heights, because we didn't see it on Broadway. I didn't see it on Broadway.
I've always wanted to.
But I think it's done now.
Still, huh?
It's a musical.
Yeah, it's a musical.
Yeah, but I don't think they have it on Broadway anymore.
But it's coming. Musicals make me queasy.
It's a movie, so it's coming out as a movie. So we got to go see it. $5 Tuesday, AMC.
Let's do it.
Save your money. But so yeah, I haven't left. I had went to Paris when I was younger. I was like 13 maybe. So I didn't remember much from that trip. So I was always thinking for a long time, I was like, I need to take a trip. I need to get away. I need to leave the country. So here we are, like 15 years later. I was like, let's go. Me and my best friend, Pal Jones. We said, Pal motherfucking Jones, honey. We was like, let's do this. We're going to go to Paris, and we're going to London, and we're going to slay it, and it's going to be amazing.
Word to Pal Jones. If you ever fall on Pal Jones' Instagram, he giving away a lot of brown sugar, if you know what I'm talking about.
What?
I've been scrolling through my Instagram like, pow. Boy.
I mean, he is still single. If everyone wants to get on that,
He has the perfect name because he'll scroll and be like, pow.
No, I don't even. Where did that name come from? I think it came him and his old best friend before me. Old best friend. They used to. I think they were called. I think they were called Boom and Pow. They had like a little, like a YouTube show or something like that.
Boom and Pow.
It was. He's gonna get on me because it probably wasn't called Boom and Pow, but it was something of that nature. And so yeah, that's how Pow came along. And his last name is Jones, so Pow Jones.
That's the best name.
That's hilarious.
So sometimes because his government name is Philip Michael Payton. So I don't know. Wait, where did Jones come from?
That is actor name right there.
So Philip Michael Payton is his government name.
Payton.
Wow.
So yeah, so Pow Jones came out of, I don't even know where Jones came from because I thought Jones was his last name just now. My bad. Sorry, Dusty. So yeah, that whole thing came apart. So yeah, we went to Paris and it was amazing. We had a great time. I wish we had a tour guide so we can get around more because the transit system was a mess. But we did get a lot of really great advice from our boy Rich over here. Gave us a whole 2-page list of things to do. And
sure
I think
we
all right.
And I went to your parents as well.
Yeah.
I think we did like 3 of those things on that list, but it definitely did help. Options. I like options because if we didn't have options, we would have been in the hotel room looking stuck and stupid. But Paris was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. We went. I think the first night we went and got on like a mani-pedi, and we walked into this spot near the hotel, and these ladies were just super dope. Like one of them was a psychic. She was a Pisces. Pisces are always kind of psychic-ish. And she was like, she didn't know any English or barely to none. And she was just like, I feel like you do a TV and entertainment. And I was like, wait, what? Like, girl, what? And I wasn't even like dressed up. And I had on like sweats in my hoodie. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Energy.
It was crazy. So then we had to like translate on Google, like on the laptop, like what we were trying to say to each other. And she was like, no, I see you on TV and your friend Pal. He helps you out and things of that nature. And she was like, I see you wearing like red and pink and all these colors. And I was like, girl, you were freaking me out. Because a lot of the colors they put me on pose are red and pink and like purples and things of that nature. And I was like, like it was crazy. So that blew my mind in Paris. That was like the thing that was like, wow, like I fuck with you, sis, because you're like really blowing my mind right now. And she was telling me things about my future. She was telling me things about like that a lot of people didn't know about, like my uncle, because he had a stroke. And she was saying someone in my family heart hurts. Like she was like, his heart hurts. He's not happy where he is because now he's in rehab now. And I was just like, damn. So that really blew my mind. London was great. London was a total mood. Like people spoke the language. We were cool. It was
your
mixy.
Desserts looked amazing on
the desserts were lit. The drinks were lit. Everything was great. We had a lot of friends we knew there. And we just had a really great time. It was just felt good to get out of New York. I feel like everyone needs to take a break to get in the tri-state area and just explore the world if they can.
Definitely expands your mind, doesn't it?
It does. It really, really does. Like I was just like, wow. Like, and I think it's important to go overseas and travel so other people know that there are other people in this world. Because I think, especially in Paris, everyone's very cliquish. Like they kind of just, it's not as like mixy as like New York is.
Trust me, I feel like I'm too American for the French and I'm too French for the Americans.
Yeah.
So I'm literally right there in the middle. I have like so like if I see a French person, I'll be, oh, vous parlez français? Like you speak French? And they ignore me. So it's like, if you're not 100, like because like, some French people, they're like, oh, you have like pretty good accent for being in the States so long. And I'm like, I appreciate that. And they're the kind ones. But if any French person that's raw French from Paris like notices that little bit of twang, they're not having it.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy how that all works. But I'm just like, y'all, we all humans. We're going to get through this. Yes, we speak different languages, but that's all right. You probably think I'm ghetto as fuck, but that's okay because I am. I am a little bit. I am.
You call
just
yourself Bougetto earlier?
Bougetto. And I'm okay with that. Like I will go in places like, oh, this is cute. Okay. Wow.
Didn't one of the Saint Lunatics make a song like that, Bougetto?
Yes. Yeah.
Probably,
What
yeah.
was his name?
Nelly.
It wasn't Murphy Lee, the other dude. Forget his name, but he did make a song called Bugetto back in the day.
I got Bugetto from, I think Candy Burris said it on the Houses of Atlanta. She was saying like Phaedra Parks had a Bugetto like birthday party for their child. I was like, yeah, that's me.
I would say we had we had a Bugetto day. And it was such an awesome time because first of all, where was your other work? Where were you working at that like super cool thrift shop? What was it called?
Beacon's Closet.
Yes, Beacon's Closet. So I met Hawk in St. Mark's and we went to this Thai spot because I found out that you really like Thai. So we like grabbing lunch and just gave me this like dope present because like Hawk knows how much I love Rick Owens. We're always talking about fashion designers. So he brought me a pair. If anybody knows of like tan,
it's okay.
I did it. I was like,
and I'm here to correct you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So they brought me a beautiful pair of the tan color wave of the Geo baskets, 100% real. 100% like authentic. They were just the dopest pair, and I was just taken away because he just gave me this pair of like Rick Owen Geo baskets from work, and then we went. Where we go? We had that sorbet.
Yes.
Yeah.
You remember all? I was just like, where are we going with this? I don't remember that day at all.
And it was really cool because it was like a New York summer type of day, and you really let me into your whole like family life and like where you came from. And that's the real first moment I felt like, okay, we're not talking on some business level. Like I'm really getting to know you as a person. And like, I just found out like how incredible like your story was and where you're going. And it just felt amazing. So like it was on a Bugetto budget, but it was such a dope New York vibe.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I feel like New York is a Bugetto ass.
Really is.
Like NYC is Bugetto as fuck.
Yeah.
Like it's you will find the cheapest things so much fun, and then you can also find really expensive stuff that can give you that kind of same energy. But it's all about that what you got in your bag. Okay, make the best of it. There's so many I've always been like, oh my god, this new York is driving me crazy because I didn't find a lot of places that you can go for free anymore to kind of just have fun and just chill with your friends. Besides like the park, like it's cold as high. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to go somewhere indoors that I can just chill. And I think I found some like somewhere in Soho on Broadway. There's like this movie thing dedicated to like movies. I don't know. I think it's Regal. I don't know what it is. But it's like dedicated to all movies or the newest movies. And you can just go in there for free. You can have like this like red carpet experience. You can walk around, watch movies for free, hang out with your friends. And that was so cool to see like New York giving back and having people go into a space where they don't have to pay crazy money for. Yeah. And like galleries, but
I got you. Now, I know we could talk about this all day, but I think we're over the 2-hour mark now.
Sweet Jesus.
So what is next for B-Hawk Snipes to wrap things up?
Woo! Greatness.
Can you get into any specifics? Or are you working on stuff that you can't talk?
No. No, more really great. Like I said, I'm writing. I'm going to be producing some more. I will get into music again. Eventually it will come. But I'm not stressing anything. I'm just letting things go with the flow. I feel like there's a time and energy for lots of things. I have so many other more passionate things that I really want to get done television wise. Because I feel like that's where I'm most powerful. That's where I feel most happy and most comfortable. So I want to get those projects out the way first. So
behind or in front of the camera?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I'm gonna Issa Rae the situation and Lena Waithe it a little bit, and we're gonna be in front of the camera and behind, all over. So I'm excited.
Awesome, cool.
Write your own narratives.
Where can people find you? Look straight into that camera over there and tell them where to find you.
Camera 1 or camera 2. Hello. You can find me at B-Hawk Snipes. That's BHAWK Snipes, like Wesley. SNIPES. Google me. Thanks.
Are you related to Wesley?
Yes, somewhat.
Great answer.
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes, y'all.
And before we leave, I wanted to keep this a beautiful and pleasant, joyous interview, which we've had. But recently, we just want to say rest in power to our good friend Feldhammer. We lost him this week, and definitely want to give him recognition. We love you forever, Feldsy, and we love you, Hawk. We love you forever. We got to recognize your friends while they're here. So, do you want to leave anybody with one more line of wisdom before we head out?
What you think I'm thinking, Jay?
Do it together.
Get your
Get
life.
your life. I felt it. I knew you knew.
And with that said, you're going to follow me. This is our line, right?
Okay.
We're going to hit him with the intro and the outro. So we're going to say it at the same time. You ready?
Okay.
We're going to hit him with the intro and the outro. Bang!
All right. I'll tell you the truth.
Can you hear it?
We don't play the social game. We are social. Power 98.5.